Oscar-nominated musical began its rather fantastic journey as the first effort of a small downtown theater company. For almost 9 years, its determined and dedicated creators, Barry Keating and Stuart Ross, continued to nurture their show through workshops and regional productions before arriving on Broadway this spring. The story of a young woman who is magically transported to the world of her favorite comic books, where she battles the Queen of Inner Space, meets the man of her dreams, saves the galaxy, and still manages to make it home in time for dinner. Yes, that old story. Ladies and gentlemen, the cast of Starmites.
Created in 1980 by Barry Keating, Starmites is an 11-character pop musical about a squad of teenage superheroes and the comic book-obsessed young Earth girl who finds herself in leading them. Chances are, if you clicked on this video, you may have had an inspiring and lovably offbeat high school theater teacher who picked this space odyssey superhero farce as your senior year's high school musical. Written as an intimate showcase piece to feature a lineup of emerging New York performers, it ended up almost accidentally on Broadway, nominated for 6 Tony Awards. The clip from the 1989 Tonys featuring the original Broadway cast is theatrically viral. So what makes this 1980s Broadway oddity somewhat of an elder millennial theatrical cult classic? What about Starmites has woven itself into our tattered high school show shirt quilts? Mark Robinson of his Musical Misfires blog writes, Starmites deserves better than it has gotten over the years. And maybe, just maybe, the time has come to take a second look at this bizarre little musical that is overflowing with colorful characters and zippy melodies. As producers clamor to come up with the next live musical option for TV, I always wonder, why not Starmites? Bono and Tamor weren't the first duo to sling a superhero through a critically brutalized short Broadway run.
We got a man made entirely of movies.
You see, I believe Starmites was truly, honestly ahead of its time, where something taking itself deadly seriously like Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark failed in gaining that guilty pleasure nostalgic joy that courses through the veins of every high school banshee, Starmites has soared in its youthful, reckless abandon of the perception of what cool is. Starmites soars because it asks us to not be afraid and to do what we're supposed to be good at in the theater. Play. Staged across the globe by countless kids and teens, this musical, although critically beaten upon in the professional sphere, has wormed its way into the recesses of the hearts of many awkward young people who were finding themselves on stages worldwide with spray-dyed hair and maybe for the first time feeling seen and at home in the theater, just like the heroine of this show finds herself truly seen by the heroes of her beloved paperbacks. Starmites reaches its hand out and pulls us into inner space because in a world that forgives such flagrant silly so easily, we're all at home to play. And why, especially now, are theatrical professionals not scrambling to do just that? So what am I going to do about it? Well, I've decided to adapt the show for my favorite group of theater performers. Our Starmites will be a self-aware celebration of the classic 1980s version of the original musical. I say original because the show was updated in 2010 to include rap elements.
Damn, diggity razzle dazzle, they call me Dr. D. I got my boys double A and sub with me. All these pinchies trying to front me and chakras up in my face. But my lady, don't go crazy, we're the kings of inner space. Starmites.
Furthermore, there's not really a definitive Starmites out there. The original cast recording was recorded 10 years after the Broadway show closed, and by then, some of the original cast was replaced for that album. This show has had a journey in discovering itself as vast as its protagonist, so why not lovingly adapt this cult classic for an offbeat team of professional creatives and for a modern audience? Well, usually it's because scripts say this on them. But if I learned anything from my favorite celebrity hot saucier, it's that it never hurts to find out who you need to talk to get what you want. So I went ahead and I got in touch with this guy. This is Barry Keating. It's his show. So if anyone could okay my deep desire to let the teen Starmites grow up, it would be him. So I reached out with a heartfelt email to a website wherein I could book Starmites kids parties. Not only did the website and learning more about Barry's other non-Starmites work utterly charm me, but within the week I was able to talk to the creator himself about my concept for an elevated Starmites that would maintain the wholesome joy of the original while bringing some Catalyst Rep special sauce to the intergalactic Lost Boys. Thankfully, Mr. Keating was kind enough to allow me to record our conversation. So, from one high school banshee to the others in inner space, here's my first chat with the man behind the mites.
Tell me a bit about the theater that you've got and what it's like.
Yeah, so we kind of got our start as a group of friends that did our local fringe festival together for years and years. I'm a playwright myself, so I focus on a lot of like new work or work that's not often produced in the Midwest. So we kind of
that from your repertoire.
4. Now, what'd you do that for?
We haven't done a musical that is not something that has been pinned within the company before. And I think it's something that people wouldn't necessarily really expect from us, because in the sort of envelope pushingness of the company, we do a lot of like darker, kind of bolder stuff. Like we did Equus, we did The Pillow Man. So we're coming off of some kind of gloom and doom. So I thought it would be fun to take our typical group, because we are a repertory, and do something that's just joyous and kind of fun and a little more out there in the happy way versus out there in the grim and bleak way.
I'm all for both. I love grim and bleak too.
Come on, laugh.
Well, that's not funny.
It is.
I was in this show in high school, and it was kind of one of the first shows that kind of got me to the point where I decided I wanted to create my own stuff, because there wasn't any sci-fi or comic books or that nerdy stuff that I also liked on top of the theater on stage. And so it just blew my mind that these shows were out there and that people were creating them. So that was
Starmites was so ridiculously ahead of its time. It was too ahead of its time.
I say that a lot. I was like,
crazy. I mean, it's just
right
so
now,
you just said it right now. It's like a show about a teenage girl who becomes a superhero. It's like, oh wow, that's so trendy. It's like, it wasn't in 1980.
Yeah.
If it's like, I don't know, if it's like grown-ups pretending to be kids, I don't know if that'll work or not.
That's what I want to avoid. That's why I said even maybe almost staging it like a flashback or a retelling. And I kind of thought about just like my take on comic books and the fact that they exist in this kind of other dimension.
Wait a minute, Starmites aren't real. They only exist in another
time in another dimension.
If they're these written characters and they're kind of frozen in their existence of being these teenage superheroes, if they're blissfully unaware of their datedness, it's almost like a funny tongue-in-cheek joke where it's like my friend who's 42 just being like, yep, never been kissed, I'm a teenager, and you just got to buy it because I buy it in the show. And I thought that since the show is already kind of aware that it's a show.
We need you, milady.
The prophecy says you're the one combusting. Battle is cruelty and totally dusting.
We got more to lay on you, but our signal is fading. Get to www.starmites.com.
It's our site, we'll be waiting.
Running with that idea that they're kind of stuck in their innocent time would do it for me.
I'm going to say that, this isn't going to be done anywhere near New York City.
Right.
You're doing it, you have a good, it might not work, but if it doesn't, it won't harm me. I mean, it'll be interesting if it does work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to see what happens with it. So, yeah, and the fact that you're talking with me about it, I would want to see changes and things like that before, if we're right in the
absolutely, like that's why.
But I don't mind. I think it's fun to do an experiment, and
I would want to make sure that kind of we were in touch throughout the process, creating of it, because just as a creator myself, that's really important to me. I don't want
it's fun to experiment around with it. It's really, I'm not sure about what you're going to do. It could actually work very well. But as I say, if it doesn't work, as far as I'm concerned, it won't matter to me in any way. So
I think it would fly, and I think it would work with the people I'm thinking of bringing to it, because they're honestly, like, they're the performers I stand by, because I do run like a true repertory group.
Yes.
And also kind of there are notables, are kind of Indianapolis celebrities.
Your repertory theater.
Yeah, so I think I think it would be fun to kind of find a vehicle for some of these people to do these parts. And, I can guarantee that it would be a very loving concept put onto the show, because we just really like the show. We like that it is exactly what it is, that it's imaginative, and we really like building worlds and, making the pictures and creating stuff in that regard. So, it just really speaks to me, because I want to design it. So.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Yeah, it's because it never had a definitive production. All productions have been so interesting because there's no one way to, everybody's just, whoever chooses Starmites kind of is looking for something different anyway.
Yeah. I did have.
It's a tough show to do. It's not easy.
No.
High school kid, but it's easy because it's really fun, and everybody's got a good part. So in that way, it's easy because everybody's willing to work.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that, because it is a really good ensemble piece. Like, I feel like you're offering somebody.
I wrote it to be done in a showcase first. I was hoping it would go to Broadway or off Broadway, but it was really a showcase. So it was all the professional actors doing it for free. So I had to make it, every part was good. And I was kind of used to doing that in those days, early New York, I knew that, if you can't hold somebody good if they don't have something interesting to do. They don't have to have the star lead, but everybody's got to have something. So I wrote it that way.
I did have a question for you, because I ordered the script from Concord, because I think that's the licensing company for it now. Yeah. So there's a lot of the stuff in the update I really like. But then there's like older arrangements of songs where I'm
you can mix and match. I have no preference.
That was my top question, because there's certain things where I'm like,
just tell me what you're doing so I can suggest things there. But I like that,
Yeah, just being, frank about the voices that I know I'm probably going to be working with this, especially my rep partner. I'm going to put him in space punk. He's a little more hair metal 80s rock. Like, he can really, really sing, but he might not be like on the higher end of like the more doo-woppy range.
I don't know why I get so shy, but when she passes by, I get kind of high, as in give a great sigh, as if I could die or touch the sky. I think that
have to kind of guitar beef it up, rock and roll it a little bit, but other than that, I think
that just rock and roll sounds fine.
Yeah.
I presume you like Ravenous more than Attack of the Banshees. That's much edgier.
I do like that one, and I think it probably fits like a harder rock score, or a lean a little bit better. I could just be remembering wrong, but I don't remember in the old version if they come out and do like the calling to Eleanor and Chakra comes out at the beginning. I didn't remember.
No, I like it better in the newer version.
I like that a lot better too. I think it's just a cleaner reveal.
Regardless of whether of the tone of it or the music, the newer version is much clearer because I had time to see it so many times in high schools. So the newer version makes more sense, the prophecies and this and this. So the newer version, story-wise,
it's really digestible.
Makes more sense.
Yeah. I think people will just go with it. It's not a lot to explain. Like, it just kind of gets explained in time. And then when it is a lot to explain, that's kind of the joke.
Well, exactly. That's what.
I feel like you guys are following.
It just made me. It was so frustrating with these stupid critics saying, "I don't get it," and it was too hard to understand. It's like, hello, duh.
It's a comic book or sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a comic book, for God's sake. Yeah. It did make it really hard to write. I mean, not to write the first time, but just it never. There's always something because it's legend and all of that. So it has to obey the rules of a musical and the rules of a legend. It's always been, but that's the fun of it,
it kind of reminds me, there's a very rarely done Sam Shepard play that we did that has some music in it called Tooth of Crime. And he staged it a couple times in the 70s and it just did not get popular.
Is that the one with a snake in it? No.
Maybe. I mean, there's two. See, because it kind of reminds me of.
I know the title very well, and I remember when it was going on.
Two rock and roll guys.
Did Patti Smith do it? Oh no! Yes, two rock and roll guys. Right.
They get this big battle. Basically for
really
who gets to be the most famous.
Right.
But he did it in the 70s, and then he had seen it enough times.
Yes.
He's like, I have to go back and rewrite this and make it make sense.
And
so that was the reason I was a little nervous, because I was hoping that it was still okay to kind of mix and match bits of old and new, because it's not okay to do it for that show. They would not budge on that, and there were elements of the older one where it's
I understand that too. Starmites is Starmites. I've never had a problem with it, and Samuel French agreed. It was really nice. It was so much fun. They agreed to make, when I was rewriting it, to make 3 new versions of it, the junior one and the high school one, and then the professional one, and then there's the original one. So there's 4. They published 4 versions of this, and all the music to 4 versions.
Maybe I just need to look for the original, because that was the script I was kind of looking for.
There's fun things that people, there's people who are just furious that I rewrote it, who love the original the most, but I don't. I think the original is a little cornier.
Yes,
but some people like that. It's corny anyway. I mean, I have these raps in the new one, which are unbelievably corny, but I think they're really fun.
Yeah, I mean, and that was kind of what I was hoping to go back to a little bit on some of the numbers is that sort of.
I don't mind at all.
the disparate sweetness of.
I tried to keep that in the newer version, but that's mixing and matching is just fine.
I mean, I get the merits of a lot of the updated music for young people, obviously, because I'm sure that speaks to them a little bit, but I'm probably going to be pushing the 80s a little bit on this one, so
that's fine.
Stupid,
cool. But I designed it to be, to have the Starmites be very seem improvisational, with a lot of bits and things like that. In fact, it's not really accurate unless they are.
Yeah.
They're clowns, so.
That's all good to hear, because the only things
changing the order of the songs and the order of things that it's possible to do, but not without consulting me and going over it.
No, I very much want to keep the same plot, the same order of things, the same integrity of the show. There were just little things where I was like, maybe if we use an older song here or a newer song here, or
if
the joke updates a little bit to kind of poke fun at who this actor is in the community, is that going to be
No, that's all. It's meant to be, as you say, to be something genuinely fun, there's got to have its own rules that are obeyed, but it is for fun, it is for the fun of it. So inventing stuff is what it's for.
Awesome.
The first production I did, which was when I was a director, I'd never written any music before. I'd worked in musicals, I knew musicals really well, but I was directing this and then I realized I could write. So the way we did it, it was a small off Broadway space. The sets and props were all found objects, untreated. They couldn't even be spray painted. Slinkies and garbage bags, and it was all that really worked. Although we had real lasers. We had a friend of mine had a laser company, was willing to do it for.
I've been looking at like laser show stuff because I'm like, that's
so we had real lasers. This was in 1980, in this little room. It was dazzling, and then we had regular costumes, but the set designer was so adamant. I really wanted to there were some trash cans or box, they were brown, those sort of cardboard things, and I wanted her to they just seemed too bright to me, and I wanted her to just spray paint them a little bit, and we really had an argument about it, and she was in tears. So I said, you win if you feel that strongly about it, so she was right.
I think we've all.
It was really fun. Like the torture things were slinkies, and they were like the ray guns were Chinese yo-yos, and it was all done like that. Plus real lasers, So it was cool. It should be playful. I know you understand that.
I want it to be very joyous and very almost kind of celebratory of like older theater practical effects, like flash paper and like little pyrotechnics.
Well, it's the mistake they made on Broadway doing it. I always wanted it to go to off Broadway, like Little Shop, and they convinced me. It would take another whole year. There was an opening in the Broadway theater, which was new, and they convinced me. Which, the good thing about it went to Broadway. It got Tonys, and it it's very known, but I think it would have had a long run off Broadway, but whatever. But on Broadway, we couldn't do I put all these special effects in the script, but the idea was for the director to come up with clever ways to do them, fun ways. And on Broadway, he tried to do real flash, but it wasn't good enough.
You almost have to have cinema budget.
It's corny, or something, or imagine
the opposite way,
something like you go ooh and ah because of the cleverness of it, not because special. But forget it,
the theater that I'm talking to about doing it, because we're a traveling troupe, we tend to just
interesting. So you use different theaters,
and mainly in kind of the same theater district of town. But the theater, ironically enough, is called The District, and it's like a 250 seater black box, and it's like stadium seats. So you're just basically looking down at a big empty black box, and there's a ton of height and stuff to play with. And the whole back wall is a projection wall. So this is perfect because it's infinite space.
I'm so glad you're doing it. It sounds like a lot of fun.
I think it's good.
When are you planning it? I actually didn't.
So it would be for our next year's season. We do 2 main stage shows a year. I'm thinking it would be according to the theater's availability, but my hope would be May or June for 23.
Right. Oh, that's funny. I wrote a show called Hollywood Opera, which was a parody and a satire of making too many musicals out of Hollywood movies that shouldn't be made into musicals. This is before they were all done. I had King Kong as a musical. This is before they actually did it. King Kong was Fay Ray was a little puppet, but in his hand, and it was called Falling for You. And I had Tippi Hedren's Immolation from the Birds. and I had a doily carte blanche, which was the street card done by Gilbert and Sullivan.
Excellent.
So, yeah, that was fun.
Now it's funny. They're actually, the jokes.
Oh, everything's been done. All these totally absurd ideas. They haven't done the birds yet, but and I had all puppets attacking her performance rather than her physically. They attacked her acting performance.
My friend just wrote a musical joke adaptation of the birds, actually called The Fowl, that he just did at this same theater. That's kind of his brand, is he writes these very tongue-in-cheek things that shouldn't be happy sounding musicals, but then he'll do little hour versions of them, and
that's what Hollywood Opera was,
playing the birds.
That was a riot, though.
It was really cute.
We'll just keep in touch about this, but get the rights, do all the formal stuff through them.
Yep.
And I don't even know how much you have to let them know that you're doing a hybrid version. You will need the material.
Yeah, I think as long as I can find the old script and score, I'll be fine. So I just gotta order that one, and kind of cut and paste and combine. And I will.
Yes.
I'll definitely make sure. As we go with anything, or as I, make any edits, I'll send those your way, or even send a proof of concept your way. Because I
just have a Zoom chat. You can kind of show me what you're doing. I've got nothing better to do. it's fun to
hanging out in space, right?
Starmites happening, so no problem.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. I'm excited.
I think so. And since you usually do serious stuff, I think it'll be a treat for your audience too.
I've been threatening this show for a while. So to really jump in and do it is going to be fun.
That's great. And what was the high school that you did it at?
Cathedral in Indianapolis, Cathedral High School. Our director's name at the time was Terry Fox. And I remember this show so clearly because he was so excited because it was the first time that Indiana had done it, and we were the only high school that had taken it on. And I mean, I need to find somebody that has our video of it or some pictures from
it. Send me it because I might know it. The
costumes
from some
were
pictures.
Incredible. I'm pretty hard on theater, and for a high school it was pretty incredible.
That's great.
We had about 50 Banshees and 50 Starmites, we really.
Oh yes, that's. Really I mean, it's great that it's such a flexible show. I mean, you can really do it with 11 people, or you can do it with 50 people.
Yep.
How many shows can you say that about? It's some, but
not many.
Not many. All right. Well, it's great to talk to you.
For taking the time.
Anytime. It's really totally entertaining for me to do. So no bother. If you want to ask me things.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you for choosing this.
Yeah.
Fun.
We're excited.
Okay.